Murray Poole of Bulldog Illustrated joins us. Murray, good afternoon. How are you?
Good, Kevin. How y'all doing?
Fantastic. Number one team in the country comes to as a Stegman tonight. A lot of Georgia fans talking upset. What would it take, in your opinion, for Mark Fox and company to pull that off?
Okay, well, it's going to be a monumental challenge, no doubt about it. If you go back to that first game, the Dogs did play them well. I think lost by 11, as y'all know, and within 2 minutes left, it was about a 5-point game, so they really played well the second half. But I don't know if that was the case, guys, of Kentucky going up big at halftime, 42-27, led by 15, just kind of took the foot off the gas a little bit, and Georgia, played well, certainly without Marcus Thornton, the leading scorer and rebounder, and he's going to be back tonight. And it's just going to take, I think, Marcus Thornton and Nemi Jurisic to keep those big guys away from the boards. You can't let Kentucky 2 shots. Can't let them keep bouncing it back up on the offensive rim until they tap it in like they've done all year. And you got to, stop the perimeter shooting. The 2 Harrison twins, I think. It was a kind of a switch that first game against Georgia. Aaron Harrison is leading them in scoring, just 11.1 a game, and we'll speak about that in a minute. The balance this team's got, but his brother, who's not the big scorer, 8.5 a game right now, Andrew Harrison, 6'6" sophomore, twins, of course. He had 23 the first game. Georgia can't let either one of the Harrison kids go off from the perimeter because they're going to have time enough inside battling the Giants underneath the backboard.
Murray, the fact that Georgia was able to go to Rupp in Lexington and play Kentucky very close, does that help with the confidence entering tonight's game?
I think it does, BJ. I think, they say, hey, we were within 5, with 2 minutes left without our leading player, arguably, Marcus Thornton, the 6'8" senior forward. So I think they're confident going in, and listened to the hotline last night with Coach Fox talking. He says, they may be one of the greatest college teams of all time. Yet, that said, we're not in awe of them. He said we respect them greatly, but we're going out and try to execute our game plan and going for the win. We're not going for a moral victory. So, they're going to be pumped tonight. Students, like y'all talked about it, named their new section, the Dog Pound. Been sold out for a couple of months. Be standing room only at 10,500 in the Coliseum in Stegman tonight.
Murray, do you feel confident at this point that Georgia is a lock for the NCAA tournament, or is there still a chance that they could lose some games and find themselves on the outside?
Yeah, I think if they play Kentucky pretty well, Matt, even if they lose to Kentucky, I mean, it doesn't really matter if the score. That's not indicative or not key to them making the tournament. I think they're pretty much in, but if they did lose to Auburn Saturday on the Plains, don't want to avenge that earlier loss in Athens, it might, like y'all talked about, throw them back on the bubble a good bit. I don't know how much because they do have some quality wins and beat Kansas State, beat Seton Hall, and their RPI still in the low 30s. So, whether the Auburn loss and a Kentucky loss back-to-back would knock them out, I still think they might make it, but they're certainly going to drop, I believe, anywhere from 8 or 9 seed to maybe, 10 or 11 if that happens. But be interesting to see what happens. I think And I know BJ was talking yesterday, this game may be, and I kind of agree with him, the most prestigious regular season game in Georgia history. If you beat the number 1 team 29-0, which Georgia's never done, they beat a number 2 team twice. I think Florida was number 2 back in the early 2000s, and Pittsburgh at the time was 2 when Georgia beat them. But they've never beat a number 1 team in the country, especially an unbeaten team. So, why it doesn't do anything for Georgia's conference championship, win a title, or anything like that. You beat this team tonight, I don't think you could argue that it may be the biggest prestigious win for the program to elevate the talk of Georgia basketball there's ever been.
Murray Poole joining us here on 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. And Murray, Mark Fox gets a contract extension for a coach that's been, I guess, maligned with his fan base in terms of he doesn't recruit well enough. Does he have enough big wins? Does he get him in the tournament enough? He's kind of hung around and gotten this program consistently around the postseason and into the postseason. How big is that for Mark Fox personally, you think, to get that contract extension and kind of silence some of those folks who have kind of said, look, if he doesn't win and recruit better, we need to find somebody else?
I think it'd be important, Kevin. Certainly show him that he's here to stay. They do have some 4-star kids coming in this year and next year committed. So a little upheaval in the recruiting there instead of just having to rely on 2- and 3-star players. And they're after Jalen Brown, of course, the All-American from Wheeler High School, 6'7", who will play in the state championship 6A game against Pebblebrook Saturday night in Macon. They're after Brunswick High plays on Friday night. Jalen Brown, being recruited by UCLA, Kentucky, just everybody you can think of, and Georgia's been with him for 2 years, working him. But, to get a five-star guy like that, it's really hard till you have that basketball background, the resume that you can tell a kid, look here, what we've done through the years. Georgia really can't do that consistently. So it's catch-22, like we talked before. You got to get some of these five stars to get over that big hump and get up in a national spotlight and have a chance to go to a Final Four and win a national championship. But you got to get the first one to commit to you, and then you can build on that. But it's kind of hard to pull them away from the big dogs in the country like that.
Murray, Georgia, like many schools in the SEC, a football school in terms of their fan support. Do you get the sense that in and around Athens today and this time of year, folks are really excited about not just tonight's game, but Georgia basketball in general with the NCAA tournament likely on the horizon?
I think so, BJ. You used to didn't see much about basketball comments on the sports events. It's all football, 360 days a year. But now I think I saw on the dog event the other night, one of the websites, it must have been 10 or 15 posts straight on basketball, which has never happened in the past. So I think the excitement is building up, and some of them were certainly not for Coach Fox sticking around for a while. I think have kind of rethought, their way of thinking, and they say this guy can build something. He's been there 6 years, but with the materials he had this year and the way we talked and all the injuries they've had, guys, 3 concussions on the team, guys missing time. I think, you could look at this body of work this year, 19 wins, should get 20 if they don't win tonight against Auburn Saturday, and, a couple of wins in the SEC tournament. That's big in Georgia basketball history, guys, 20 wins a season. You just never had them with some of the outstanding coaches way back then.
Murray, finally, last year in the national championship game, we had a 7 seed versus an 8 seed. Right now, it appears that Georgia's going to be somewhere in that range. If the Dogs start playing great basketball coming down the stretch, everything kind of falls into place, just how far is this team capable of going?
Yeah, I think they're capable. I think they're finding the chemistry. They're a veteran team, Matt, and, I think, they have the outside shooting, with J.J. Frazier and certainly Kenny Gaines, and certainly they're starting to get a lot more production underneath from Marcus Thornton and, Nemi Jurisdick coming off a big game the other night. And he did have 17 guys the first game against Kentucky, so they need a big game from him tonight. But I think the team, like you say, if they can show well against Kentucky tonight, beat Auburn, and then catch a little fire in the tournament, they could go a long way. I'm not going to say they're a Sweet 16 team or anything like that. They had Elite 8, but they could surprise some teams according to the season they get in the tournament. Of course, somebody said if you beat the first team that they're projected to play, if Georgia wins that opener in NCAA tournament, they're looking at Virginia the second game, which somebody said it may be harder to beat Virginia because of their style of play than they will Kentucky tonight. But I'd like to go back to Kentucky real quick, Matt. I don't think I've ever heard of a larger college basketball team. They could put Carl Anthony Towns at 6'11", Willie Cauley-Stein is 7 foot. They have Dakari Johnson, a 7-footer coming off the bench, and they got Devin Booker, 6'6", also, and Andrew Harrison, 6'6". Trey Lyles, a 6'10" freshman, has come off the bench. These guys could put a 7-footer and 3 6'11s on the floor, 2 7-footers, 2 6'11s, and a 6'6" guard if they want to go big. So it's going to be a huge challenge tonight. I think Marcus Thornton's going to have to muscle those guys out from underneath the basket. And I think certainly J.J. Frazier, who had only 8 points up in Lexington, is going to have to really, him and Kenny Gaines is going to have to really hurt them from the outside, because they're going to have to get those guys to come out from under the basket. And if anything could happen, and most of all, play with confidence, stay with them the first half, and then get stagnant pump in that second half. And, who knows what could happen. Anytime you have a sport of any kind, there's no unbeatable team, I would say.
Absolutely. Murray Poole, Bulldog Illustrated, our guest here on 3 and Out. Murray, we appreciate the time. Thanks much.
Thanks so much, guys.